Hello, welcome. Thanks for tuning into my little YouTube channel. I really do appreciate the fact that you've taken a few minutes out of your day to watch me blather on here. This video is going to be an update on the progress or lack thereof on the backpack sewing project that I announced a few weeks ago. I feel a bit guilty for not having this video up sooner. I've been having a hard time getting going on the project. As I ponder and plan, I seem to be convincing myself that I've bitten off more than I can chew, that it's going to be a real complex project, and I don't know why, but it's intimidating me. Add on top of that just the general midwinter malaise that I think most of you can relate to, and yeah, it's been hard to get going on it, but it's not all doom and gloom. I actually have managed to accomplish a few tasks, and we'll get to those in a minute. But first I'll show you my sewing machine and my workspace. This is my thrift store Singer. My guess is it's about 1980s or 1990s vintage machine. It's in pretty good shape. I think it suffered more from lack of use rather than misuse. Right here, this is a thread guide. It guides the thread off the spool down the front of the machine. This was broken off. I had to replace that. And I needed to buy, the presser foot was missing, so I needed to buy a couple presser foots for it. I got a straight stitch and a zigzag foot. I took the top off, checked inside, lubricated all the lubrication points with grease and oil. It runs good. I did have to do an adjustment on the needle position. It was coming a little bit close to the needle plate here, and I was having some problems with thread breakage, so I had to take the end cover off here, loosen a couple of screws, and shift the whole needle assembly, the whole thing that guides the needle up and down. I had to move that back just ever so slightly to give myself a little bit more clearance here, and after I did that, it seemed to sew a lot better. But it is a lightweight machine. In the literature I was able to find on it, they call it a dressmaker machine. I'm not making a dress. I'm not making any dresses on this. What I'm going to do with this machine is going to be stretching it to its limits, sewing through thicker, heavier fabrics, multiple thicknesses of different fabrics. Everything is going to be a real task for this machine to handle. I've had to give a lot of thought to design to try to minimize like that extra thick sewing thickness. Truth be told, for a project like this, what I've learned from studying the internet and other YouTube videos is that what's really needed for a project like this is something called a walking foot machine. On this machine, the only thing that feeds the material through past the needle are these little, they're called feed dogs. In the needle plate, they lift up and push the thread or the material back and then drop down, so they're going like this all the time while you're sewing. But with a walking foot machine, it's a combination of motion above and below, so you have the feed dogs on the bottom plus the presser foot in the needle moving too. Let me see if I can give you a visual here. The feed dogs would come up, the needle comes down, and the presser foot and the needle and the feed dogs pull the fabric through. They separate, come back, and repeat the cycle. So it's positive feeding from above and below, and the needle pushing your fabric through the sewing machine. I've seen these machines work in many videos, and I'm lusting for one right now. For the time being, I'm working with this one. And my workspace here is just my workbench top. I have the sewing machine sitting there on an old drawing board I had, but this is it. I don't have any fancy sewing table, any place to lay out and cut my fabric. My workshop floor, I have an old, kind of a nasty old rug here on the floor. That's going to be my cutting table. Rather inconvenient, but I plan to make it work. Here's the material I've gathered for the project. Originally, my intention was to use a 12-pound wax canvas, or 12-ounce wax canvas. That makes more sense. Anyway, that was too expensive. That was about almost $20 a yard for that material, and I figured I'd need about 2 yards to do the project, just allowing for errors and fitting and that kind of stuff, trial and error. Anyway, I decided that was too much to spend on what was basically a prototype and just a test, an experiment to see if I could do this. So I opted for some less expensive material. This is a 10-ounce canvas material. It's non-waxed. It's a second quality material, although I can't find any flaws with it. One odd thing though is when I ordered 2 yards, and they sent me 2 yards, but they were in 2 separate pieces. It wasn't 2 continuous yards. It was 1 yard and 1 yard. And the dye lots are slightly different. In the right light, you can see a slight difference. And the weave is a little different in the other piece, which hey, they're seconds. I shouldn't have expected perfection, but I will try to work around that. So this is going to be the main body of the pack. It's kind of wax canvas is probably a lot stiffer, a lot more boardy than this. Although this is kind of stiff, this is more like what I think like Carhartts are made out of. You know, it's more of a garment canvas than something meant for tents or bags or that kind of thing. We'll see how it works. Keeping my fingers crossed. I may have to use some kind of stiffener, something to give this some more body to help it hold its packed shape. This is just a piece. I've already cut it out. This is a piece of upholstery leather that I scavenged from a discarded chair or couch or something. I can't even remember what. About a year ago I grabbed this with the thoughts of one day using it for something. That day finally came. I don't know. How does that look together? I'm not wild on the color combination, but it's what I have. It's what I'm going to use. This is going to be the bottom of the pack. So the pack's actually going to sit on this, and then the bottom 2 inches is going to be leather too. And then the rest of it's going to be this olive drab duck canvas. Now for the lining, I'm going to line the pack. I'm going to line it. This is ripstop nylon, this bright orange ripstop nylon. A pack lined with this stuff, anything you have inside the pack is going to show up. It's going to contrast very well against this bright orange cloth. So when you're looking down in your dark pack, you'll be able to see whatever's down in there, and you won't be fumbling for what it is you're looking for. And then this is just some various webbing and hardware I purchased. Some elastic I'm going to use for the water bottle pockets. some, I believe this is 2-inch webbing, which is going to be for the yoke of the shoulder straps. 3/4 inch polyester webbing, which is going to be for the chest strap and also the shoulder strap adjusters. And then I purchased some plastic hardware, a little side snap clip for the chest strap, and these are I don't know what they have, a special name. They're just strap adjusters, so I can adjust the straps. And these are some D-rings that I'm going to sew to the bottom of the pack to hang a bedroll or anything I want to tie to the bottom of the pack. So I've got 4 D-rings and a snap hook, which I'm going to sew inside the pack on a piece of ribbon, and that's going to be my key leash for my car keys, so I don't lose them inside my pack. At the beginning of the video, I alluded to a general lack of progress with the project, and I wasn't being completely honest. I haven't started cutting out pieces or sewing them together yet, but I have made some minor progress. Let's put it that way. I have started the easiest stuff first, and that was stitching the D-rings into short pieces of the webbing material, just preparing basic assembly components. So I've stitched up 4 D-rings that are going to hang off the bottom of the pack. I've stitched these strap adjusters. I made a loop and stitched them to a short length of webbing that's going to go on the shoulder pad. So I've made 2 of those, and I stitched the side snap buckle onto a piece of webbing strap that's going to go across here. So that's the sum and total of the parts that I've made that are actually going to be in the pack. But I have done a lot of practice sewing and practicing different elements, basically traveling down the path to find out where the stumbling blocks are before I start to really put this thing together. So I stitched up a small section of shoulder strap. I have some, I don't know if you can see it in there, some foam padding. I stitched up a hollow tube. I have the duck canvas on the outside, the ripstop on the inside. So this is going to go like this over my shoulder. I like the contrast there. I think that looks pretty cool. I practiced stitching across the padding to hold it in place inside that strap tube. Another thing I wanted to see was how strong this was going to be, because I don't intend to have a piece of webbing that goes all the way over my shoulder. The webbing is going to come up about this far with a yoke on my back. It'll come up this far. Then the shoulder strap pads come down about this far. But I wanted to see how strong that was going to be, carry the load of the pack, and I think it's going to be plenty strong. Another thing I practiced on was sewing a zipper. I decided to add a zipper pocket to the front of the backpack, so I practiced sewing a zipper with a flap that goes over it, so it'll be somewhat rainproof. Anyway, so I practiced sewing a zipper. I practiced sewing the 2 dissimilar materials, the ripstop and the canvas, together to see how that went. I used a piece of ribbon here for a binding tape over the edge of the hem. Practicing. Here's a sample piece out of some leather scraps. This is representative of the bottom of the pack, and I wanted to see how this machine would handle stitching leather, and actually stitching through 2 and even 3 thicknesses of leather is not that much of a problem for this machine. I do have to go slow, and I do have to turn the handle by hand sometimes just to help it along to get through the thicker parts. But I think it's going to be, I think it's going to work. The main practice is I wanted to practice stitching a round corner and a square corner to see how difficult that would be. And then I practiced stitching some elastic. This is a sample of the top of a water bottle pocket, so I practiced that to see how hard that was going to be to do, and it wasn't that bad. And then I actually made 3 sample pockets, water bottle pockets, out of some I know they look crazy. I made them out of just some scrap material that I have had laying around here. Just practicing different construction methods, different options for the pocket. This one is just like a patch pocket with the bellows in it. This one, I added a floor to the patch pocket. And I also embellished it with some contrasting seam tape here, just for fun. The more practice you can get sewing that seam tape, binding tape, the better, because without the right tools, there's a special tool that feeds that seam tape into the presser foot of the machine as you're sewing. I don't have that. It's really difficult. Anyway, this is a variation of this with just a bottom gusset in it. Then this pocket here is like a front patch with a gusset all the way around. Just to give the pocket a little more volume. This one I don't like at all. I just don't like the way, I don't think there's enough volume. I don't think there's enough volume in this pocket. I don't like the way the water bottle distorts it. I like this one a lot better. Adding that floor gusset there gives a lot more room in there for the bottom of that water bottle. It doesn't like distort the pocket so much. And this one, this is the one with the gusset all the way around, bottom and sides. This one works pretty good too, actually, but of the 3, it's the most difficult to sew. So I think this version here, modified patch pocket with just a floor gusset, is going to be the way I go with this. But that's what I've been doing so far, is just practicing and experimenting and finding out where the difficulties are going to be. Something many of you are probably wondering about right now is how I know how to sew. And the answer to that question is I don't. I'm learning as I go. I have to be honest, I was raised in a home where my mother sewed, from an early age, I remember watching her sew, looking over her shoulder, asking questions, and just a curious, wide-eyed kid soaking it all in and storing it up here for future reference. She never sat me down at her side and said, come here, Mark, I'm going to show you how to sew. I picked up a lot of knowledge just by watching her, and enough so where none of this was truly foreign to me. When I bought this machine, I knew what all the basic parts were called. I went online and I found a manual, and it showed me how to thread the machine. It took a few trial and error fits and starts before I got it right, but I got it right now, and it's not really difficult. And I went online. I went on YouTube. There are literally thousands of videos on YouTube to teach people how to sew. One channel in particular, it's a young man. He goes by the name of the Jason of All Trades. I'll put a link in the description of this video. The Jason of All Trades, and his entire channel is dedicated to exactly the kind of sewing that I want to do. Anything sewn out of nylon, canvas, Cordura, you name it, he does it, and he's real good at showing. He's real straightforward, honest. I find them very informative and engaging, and I would recommend him as a place to start if you have any inclination at all to give this a shot. One thing I do want to say is that my intention with this series is not for it to be a tutorial. I don't really plan to try to show the nuts and bolts of how I'm doing this, a step-by-step guide. Number one, I don't know myself, so I can't really get up on my high horse and tell you how to do it. It's going to be a learning experience for me. What I do hope to communicate to you is how I learn, and just keep you updated with the progress. What steps I have problems with, the things I try that don't work, and how I solved the problem. I'm not going to show you how to thread a sewing machine. I'm not going to show you how to sew a seam. I may not even show very much of me actually operating this machine, because I don't have enough skill yet to make it look easy. But I just want you. I want to share my experience. I want you to follow along and share my experience as I attempt to do something I've never done before. I think that's enough for this video. Probably too much. Hopefully, not hopefully, I promise. Next video, I'm going to have some pieces actually cut out, sewn together, talk about the process of design, patterns. If I need a pattern, why would I use a pattern? That kind of stuff. And I might actually show some sewing if I can find something that's easy. But yeah, next time there'll be something I can pick something up and show it to you and say, yeah, I made this. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate you taking the time. I know my videos tend to run a little bit longer than average length YouTube videos. Always conscious in mind when I'm editing to try to keep them short, but I just can't. Don't know where this one's going to end up. But again, if you've watched this far, I sure appreciate it. I like reading comments, and I try to answer all of them. So until next time, goodbye.